Brilliant. So people and skills is what it's all about today. And we'll be talking various elements of that subject matter from across the sector. So we've got Helen Driscoll, Head of Human Resources, the Vella Group. We've got Dean Lander, Head of Repair, Thatcham Research, and we've got Edwyn, CEO of Teacup, joining us today. They'll do their introductions very shortly. Obviously, a huge thank you to our corporate partners, Solera Auditex, New Kids on the Block for us, BASF, BMS, CAPS, Copart, Emacs, Integral, Enterprise, Innovation Group, Mercer, Nationwide Vehicle Recovery Assistance, S&G Response, and Sherwin-Williams, and our partners Aztec, the Green Part Specialist in Data, Prasco UK, and associate partners General Accident Repair, Trend Tracker, and Thatcham Research. Our disclaimer: so the views and opinions expressed during the following webinar are those of the individual contributors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the contributor's employer, organisation, committee, or other group or individual. Please respect any all contributions, and we encourage you to join the conversation via the interactive functions available. So there we have it. Phew, that's the hard bit done. We can have some fun now. So we'll just have a little round robin. We'll say hello to everyone. Dean Lander, how is the world treating you, sir?
Hello, Mark. Hello, everybody. World's treating me very well at the moment. Thank you very much.
That is what we like to hear. And you're fresh out of a board meeting, so this is kind of light relief for you today, perhaps.
For sure.
And Helen, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you guys, the Vella Group, got a lot going on, so we'll catch up with you very shortly. And Edwyn, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Mark, and hello, everybody on the end. Dean and Helen, wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really looking forward to this.
Absolute pleasure. And I'm sure the audience is keen to find out more about Teacup and all the good stuff you are doing. You've already tested me by leaving it till the last minute to join. So I'm breathing now, don't worry. So fantastic. So hot topics, let's kind of jump to that to start with. So you've all got different perspectives in terms of what you're kind of hearing, seeing, feeling within the industry at the moment and beyond. So what are the hot topics when it comes to people and skills within the sector at present? Helen, I'm going to come across to you first, if I may.
Okay. For me, I think there's a couple of areas. I think one of them is a skill shortage in recruitment. I think over the years, we haven't invested in apprenticeships and apprentices, which has created a massive skill shortage, which is now showing through the recruitment. There is a massive gap, and it shows when we recruit. I also think mental health and wellbeing is a rising issue, and I think we have to look at how, as a business, we react to that and how we support our employees. And I also think over the last 2 years, work-life balance has changed, and the way we approach that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. All good things. And again, we've had a little chat before we came on air, didn't we, about that kind of work-life balance. So I'm sure we will delve further into that. Dean, from your perspective?
Yeah, echoing what Helen said, and anybody that's paying attention to kind of ONS figures will see that there's been a 25% increase in vacancies across the automotive repair sector. We're certainly reporting and talking about up to 15 in every 100 roles across the industry being vacant currently, and trying to fulfill those roles is becoming a challenge. And it's not always possible to fill those roles by taking an individual from another business, because the skills that the industry need today, and you'll I'm sure respect, Mark, this is kind of the area that I'm coming from. Technology is the biggest influencer over that skills gap right now. We've been speaking for more than a decade about the aging demographic being a problem. And the last 5 years really talking about technology and the technology changes being a problem. Well, over the next 5 years, this is just going to be astronomical change that's affecting the body repair sector. We can see the new cars on sale today. We know that Helen and her business starts to see those cars pretty quickly, but in 5 years' time, they will be the fundamental job in the body shop, on the ramps, requiring the skilled workforce that is currently employed to be able to repair these connected vehicles, these vehicles that are autonomous in nature, and these vehicles that are electrified. So I think that's a major issue. I think the other thing that the industry has spoken about for a long time, but is really paramount today, is the managers of people. We've got a significant level of management within this industry that isn't trained and isn't potentially capable of dealing with today's harshness that's occurring, this level of change. If you're a manager that's appointed because you're good at dealing with what you're used to seeing, but you're not trained to deal in change, I think that's another problem that the industry is potentially just facing down the barrel of a gun with.
Really interesting points there, really interesting stuff. And again, we'll kind of expand on that conversation, I'm sure, in due course. Edwyn, I suppose you dare I say it, you see the world sort of slightly differently in terms of where you sit with Teacup. So, again, perhaps within the industry, perhaps broader than our own sector, what are you kind of, what are the hot topics in terms of people and skills at present?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, I think we have quite a unique lens. We work across about 14 different industries, high level financial services through to tech and so on. I think one of the hot topics at the moment is this concept of the Great Resignation, which would probably echo what Helen and Mark said to an extent, where there's this view, and always a little bit dubious about statistics, but that 1 in 2 people are perhaps looking at quitting a job or changing jobs over the next 12 months. And I think if we distill it down to what's causing that, it really comes down to a lot of work-related stress. This concept of a lot of people perhaps working harder than ever, a real disconnect. And I think this is where organizations should focus a bit more between culture and well-being. I think that line between really caring for people and well-being is much more blurred. I think just generally, lockdown and COVID has got a lot of people reevaluating work-life balance. I missed the conversation with Helen, but that's something that comes up quite a bit around what is important in life, what's the meaning in life, how much do I work, where do I work, and so on. So I think a broad principle around, I don't think we work with in any sector where companies aren't more challenged to keep good people, and it's very tough to attract people to almost all industries, as I think people are just reevaluating what they want out of their lives, out of their careers, and how do they strike that balance between personal and work and so on. Where I think with the future of work, which is the hot new topic around how does that look, how does that work, how do we manage change, is nobody's got the perfect formula yet, and I'm not convinced there is a perfect formula. So so there's a lot to consider for human resource managers, directors, and people leaders across different sectors.
And really interesting, because that again links back to obviously what Dean was just saying in terms of that kind of management leadership level within the industry. Perhaps we haven't been used to being that agile in our approach and doing these things. We're certainly starting to see it and have seen it over the years coming into the sector. A lot of talk about cultures and creating those business environments. Helen, again, we kind of, what impacts, if you like. So again, let's kind of just rewind a little bit. At the present moment, we've spoken about kind of this need for a human resource and the fact that it's, hard to come by, to say the least. Mm-hmm. What impact is that having on businesses such as yourselves? And what are you kind of doing to overcome it, if there is anything you can do?
I was going to say for us, it's creating gaps in our workforce. So in certain areas within the workforce, we struggle to recruit. So we know that some of the technical roles are really hard. And the other impact it's having is it's driving market rates up. So the competition out there currently is in high demand. So at one point, a salary would be 30,000 and now it's gone up to 45,000. It's massive, but also technicians are fully aware that they're going from a premium, which certainly doesn't help businesses, our business, our competitors. So it's apprenticeships, but it's not just apprenticeships. We've got to reinvest in the rest of the business. We have to retrain, we have to upskill, we have to think about how we repair cars, can we do anything different? And it's engaging with that workforce to ensure that we're getting the right training out there. We currently have 2 technical trainers. Yes, they're there to support the apprenticeships, but it's further than that, it's wider than that. It's the whole technical workforce, whether it's them becoming more multi-skilled, whether it's a new piece of tooling or equipment. We have got to ensure that they've got the relevant training to enable us to repair the vehicles.
And whilst we're on this theme, I'm going to launch a little poll for people to get involved. So hopefully knitting this together. So what do you consider to be most important selling point when it comes to recruitment at the moment in the industry? We're looking at salary. We're purely talking salary, career development, company culture. That's what we're talking about. Working environment, what is that? The bricks and mortar, the kind of working hours and the benefits packages. So we'll just leave that one running. Dean, a lot of what Helen said there kind of ties in, exactly with what Thatcham research does and offers. And it is kind of that, again, the term is bandied around quite a lot, but the perfect storm, there is so much change in the industry in terms of repairing vehicles, as well as kind of the gulf that exists in terms of bringing young people into the sector. Again, from your perspective, what are you seeing in terms of how businesses are addressing this at the moment?
I think we're seeing a great deal of appetite across the sector for apprentices, but not even nearly enough, unfortunately. The latest government funding data demonstrates that in Q1 of the education year, that's September through to about November last year, the industry saw about 370 new apprentices start. At Thatcham, we've seen, we said we were doubling our capacity to kind of support this perceived need of the industry. We've seen that grow by 250%, and I wish we could solve and be there to support every repairer's needs for apprentices and stuff like that, but we just don't have the capacity and the infinite resource to do so. And we see training providers up and down the country just exiting the market or providing, dare I say, inappropriate levels of service and support to apprentices, which is just harmful because it turns the employees away from the apprentice model. But I think we need to encourage more body shops to do more, to take more people on. But there's also a case here, Mark, that I'm worried that the apprentice model will provide us with a longer term solution. But we have a short term issue right now. With that many vacancies open in the industry, we have a short term issue, and we need to find smart, intelligent ways of finding transferable skills from sectors that are close to us. We paint things using spray guns. We can't be the only industry sector across the whole UK industry that uses spray guns and paints things. We bend metal, join metal. We can't be the only industry that does that. So we've got to look as an industry a little bit broader and go, how do we attract people outside of these other career paths? And for far too long, those other career paths have been what has attracted the people from the body shops to leave the body shop sector and go across. So, and not one single body shop or one single body shop group is going to do it alone. This is an industry need to change the image and go to market and attract people from other sectors to kind of fill the here and now gap rather than just focus on the long-term solution. Still think apprentices are the long-term solution. Still got an aging demographic. Estimates are around 50 years. is the average age of a technician on the workforce. We don't have enough data points to be able to prove that. But anybody that walks in and out of body shops up and down the country today will know that that's not far off the mark. And that's a dangerous situation for any industry to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's move on. We'll take that conversation across to Edwyn in a second, because there's some really valuable points in there. And hopefully Edwyn can sort of fill us in on a bit more detail. Results from the poll. So you can see there, salary, 31%, career development, 9%. Company culture, 34%. So again, it's good to see that. Working environment, 19%, benefits, 6%. So that's what people online consider to be the most important selling points at the moment within the industry. So come across to you, if I may, Edwyn, and pick up on the sort of various streams that we're on at the moment. But other industries, are they doing things significantly different to attract people that maybe our industry is not at the moment? And kind of, you know, from the outside looking in, what do you see from your angle in terms of where are our shortcomings? What could we do better as a sector?
You know, it's fascinating, Mark, because listening to the guys as well, every industry focuses a lot on skills and on specific needs for each job. I think what is fascinating, the organizations that we see that are thriving are focusing on basic human needs, you know, almost taking it back to Maslow. You know, what do people really want to be self-fulfilled? What are our hierarchies need from a human perspective? And those organizations, you know, if we take inductions as an example, when we induct people into our organizations and introduce them into, you know, do they join because they really want to do the job, or was it a referral from a friend and they want to be close to, you know, relationships? And what is fascinating, I always think back in my time moving into insurance, into claims and into credit hire. And people always say, you know, nobody chooses credit hire. And that sort of is an interesting, and wherever you sit on that debate on credit hire is interesting. But so many people stay in credit hire because, you know, some of those human Maslow needs are met. You know, you feel safe, you feel as part of a community, you like the people you work with. Yet we spend so much time focusing on skills and, you know, doing the job, but we spend so little time looking at those human needs around, you know, what builds good relationships. You know, actually, when are you more likely to have a good relationship? When we have good sleep, when we have good fitness, we work together in a team around our mental capacity, our physical capacity. Those are the things I believe that actually drives people's genuine needs and get them to stay in organizations. And we see some wonderful customers who've been really pivoting, spending a lot of time around, you know, focusing on those what we call softer things around what drives self-fulfillment needs, what drives people's psychological needs. And that creates a completely different culture, an environment of empathy where we are actually looking at people from a human perspective, not just giving them the skills to do their job, but actually bringing them into an environment where they feel safe, where they feel belonging, where they feel part of a team. You know, there's been so much talk around purpose-driven organizations and all those sort of MBA talk, but, you know, I think those organizations, certainly who we work with, who attract and retain the best people, and other organizations, often, you know, it's through word of mouth, it's through looking at those aspects that aren't actually the technical thing of doing the job. Because that's almost a given. You know, you're going to repair cars, you're going to have to, you know, be able to spray, you know, use a spray gun. We all understand that. And perhaps there's, you know, maybe different technologies. I'm not that technically minded, but, you know, there'll be pros and cons from one body shop to another. But I believe what will make people stay is when we focus and treat them like humans and spend a bit more time, not just focusing on change, but focusing on them as humans, you know, around and looking at those soft skills. And I think that's where certainly organizations who are focusing on that, and I'd say one of the best ones at the moment is IT, where, and maybe through threats, through like cyber security and what we've seen in Russia and Ukraine is a big threat about cyber. And, you know, the tech community have been fascinating how they responded to that. They didn't upskill all their people to go and sell more cyber solutions. They've actually focused on supporting those guys from a psychological perspective. Because if I use the IT example, nobody really gives IT much credit until things go wrong. And from a cyber threat, it goes wrong catastrophically. So there was a bit of an exodus and a real stress in that sector. Yet the leaders of that organization have just focused on the softer side of how can we support you? How can we make, we all run this together? How can we look after sleep, understanding those guys were stressed, weren't sleeping well, maybe weren't looking at their diets, were working harder than ever. And by doing that, we've seen a real shift in, how those people on a human level perform, and how that human performance translates into business performance. And I think that's the big disconnect in many industries, is we are so focused on business performance. We all say in our strategy papers, we talk about people strategy, but how much focus, I won't name them, but a very large institution, we've been talking about inductions, and you ask them, what do you do for wellbeing? And they say, well, we have an employee assistance program, and we've got mental health first aiders. Yeah, that's, what do you how do you encourage healthy eating, healthy sleeping, healthy relationships, on a proactive basis? And that's kind of when things go a little bit quiet. But certainly when organizations focus on that, we really tap into people's, yes, basic needs, pay, salaries. It doesn't surprise me your poll, only, a small percentage of people said salary. That isn't the main thing that drives it. Safety needs, security, safety, psychological needs, and those self-fulfillment things that people want to do, maybe being a bit more flexible, understanding that, around a bit of time off. So that's the one thing we don't have is time. So having a bit of flexibility around those things, I think drives better engagement, and certainly works better from what we're seeing.
Very interesting. Self-fulfilling prophecy. So proactive rather than reactive. It's probably fair to say there. And Helen, I'll come across to you again in terms of much of what kind of Edwyn has said, and in terms of where the world has been in recent times, and as an industry as we come back. Are we still kind of, working within a rigid framework, or are we doing things differently, from your perspective in terms of how we, human resource, attract people, retain people, and work with people, give our people the best environment possible?
I think Edwyn's totally right. We could carry on working the way we did 2 years ago, but we would not be able to attract or retain. I think the pandemic has changed people's mindsets. It's made them want, or it's certainly made them more aware that there's a work-life balance, and it is more than just salary. People are aware of their mental health, their well-being. They're looking for, it's not just the salary, obviously. Everybody comes to work because they need money, but they're wanting more than just that salary. We have got to offer different benefits, different perks. It's job security. You speak to a lot of candidates who are coming for a job, and they're wanting to make sure their job's safe. They want flexibility. They want to be able to pick their kids up from nursery or take them to nursery. They want more time with the family. They're wanting development. They're wanting to know what their career path is and how they climb the ladder. They're wanting to know what training there is available, and not just the technical skills. They're wanting the softer skills. They're wanting the personable skills. And I think working environment is massive at the moment. They're wanting a nice working environment. They want to be engaged with. They want autonomy. They want to be able to make their own decisions. This last 2 years has shown that people's mindsets has really changed. And I think we could go out there and say, everybody in the office, we work 8 till 6, but I don't think we'd retain any staff.
Really tough. And again, I suppose the environment body shops operate in terms of technicians, specifically talking here out on the shop floor, it's a challenge to offer that flexibility. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it can be. We have different roles. So for our technical roles, they have to be on a shop floor, they can't work from home. So it's hard to do, but we do try to honour certain flexibility. We understand that people have families, they have personal commitments that they need to adhere to, and it's important for us to do it. But yes, it is challenging, and I'm not saying we're 100% there, but we have started making a step towards how we make it work as a whole organisation and not just the odd person here and there, and how we can advertise it and let people know that we are flexible.
Yeah, that's it. I suppose, one of the things we're all facing.
I think somebody mentioned it before regarding about training our managers to understand that, and we know that as a business is that we have got to make sure our managers, our leaders are aware of what we can offer and how we keep staff interested and wanting to work for us and how things have changed.
Great stuff. Good to hear it kind of, at the right at the forefront of the industry, really. And Dean, again, piecing all of this back to yourselves, and, it's obviously far more technical training at Thatcham Research, but you're obviously dealing with and talking to body shops on a daily basis. So you're starting to kind of gain a sense that this whole culture movement towards, managing people better and offering a perhaps, more advanced environment is where things are at. Do you get involved in the softer skills as well? Is that kind of, where the head's at?
To be honest, I think from a Thatcham perspective, there's probably more pressure on us now from our customer base to start thinking about can we diversify into softer skills. And I say diversify, it's not diversification for us, because softer skills in the apprenticeship have been built in for the 15, 20 years that we've been delivering them. We are not only training them to be technically competent, but we're training them and giving them the life skills to be able to behave appropriately in an adult working environment. And it's interesting because we have that debate around my management team about how do we take it out of the apprenticeship model and actually give it to the other guys and girls that are coming on the courses, because they haven't necessarily had this opportunity. People coming out don't necessarily have that opportunity through body shops. The one thing I'd like to kind of get across as well, we're talking about technical skills, and I would talk about it all day long, because coming from Thatcham, being very much focused on the technology that's on cars and the skills required in a body shop, I'd imagine in most body shops it's 30 to 50% of the workforce are not directly involved in repairing vehicles, are doing other customer service orientated things. And what are we doing for those individuals? And we really do need to sort of take Edwyn's point here, lift this up a little bit away from have we trained them technically to do the right thing, to have we inducted them appropriately into our business to understand the business culture. Does the business have an identifiable culture that you can sell to an individual? I think it's easier for the groups to create that kind of culture, but for the smaller body shops, I'd imagine that's quite a difficult thing to achieve. And that will be one of the resounding points as to why you don't attract a sustainable workforce, because if you're attracting them purely on how much you're paying them, and the next person is willing to pay them a little bit more, that's their motivation for coming and going from the job. Whereas if you do build those motivations around the culture of the business and the support that's on offer for their home life as well as their work life, those things will convince people to stay. And that's the attraction is important, development is important, but retention, as Helen said, retention is a key thing today. You want to keep the people that you've got. I read somewhere that it costs 250% more to recruit somebody new than to retain somebody that's currently in a role in your business. That's the cost that any business should be going, whoa, hold on a minute. Let's make sure that we're taking care of the people that we've got.
But can I just, adding to that, Dean, I absolutely agree with that cultural point. And I think one of the things which, if we put a little bit of lens on some organizations who perhaps don't always get it right, is when we often think as managers, it's do as I say, not do as I do. And, we'll absorb all of this pressure, cost pressure. There's a lot of, chat in the Q&As around cost and insurers driving, pricing and all the rest of it. But I think an open culture where, we all have financial well-being and stresses, those things are shared a little bit more, again, creates a real culture of trust. And we're in this together. And how do we support one another? And I think often when when we roll initiatives, we get, this is for the people, not for me. It's, I will work all hours of the day and, I'll lead by example. But, what we're doing is, those aren't great examples. Working 18 hours and yourself into an early grade, it's not the way to run your own personal life. And it's not a great example to set. And I think what we need to change is this, putting up our own mask and meaning it, but equally sharing stresses and having a more of an open dialogue around, stop this, command and control. But, we're all on a human level, we're all very similar. So let's see how we can drive our performance on those levels and have those conversations and try and understand. Sometimes we talk a lot about control and influence around, there's lots of things that we can only influence. We can't influence others, but we can control things like how hydrated we are. Now, I talk about hydration, people are like, really? But what a small 1% dehydration lead to a 10% cognitive loss in ability. That's massive, and that then leads to fatigue, and that then leads to people being short. So just doing, focusing on more of those human aspects, and then more of an open culture around sharing how we feel, sharing some of the data, not thinking we always have to put on a mask, I think builds a real element of trust. And I think, that really just lifts that whole, command and control, and again, gives people that. Actually, Helen mentioned, people are nervous about, maybe the financial viability of some body shops, and therefore may jump ship. It's those are all the small points that can make a huge impact.
Yeah, really interesting points. And as an industry, we talk an awful lot about trust and trust external between partners and work relationships, but actually, as you probably alluded to there, or what I'm reading into it, is that trust within the business itself. Sometimes, I don't have to be the person kind of tearing my hair out, not that I would, because that's very difficult for me. And as soon as you ingrain that trust amongst workforce, people step up. And I think that's probably, something that we're all guilty of. And Dean, Helen, we were kind of, talking before we joined, and, we were saying about, switching off, properly switching off these days. It's, it's something that I think we all benefit from. We've got very used to just being on 24/7, and actually having those breaks is much needed. So are we heading in the right direction? Dean Lander, to you.
Yes, but the journey that we need to tread is long. It will have many humps and hurdles, but I'm a great believer in collaboration. And if we do try as an industry, wherever possible, to collaborate, work together, trust in each other, I think there's a bit of a pot of gold at the end of that. And there's a whole bunch of people out there that would love to work for some of the businesses that I see across the body repair sector. We got some great entrepreneurial people across the sector. We've got some great businesses, and I only see a bright future, but to get there, we've got to really kind of tread our path carefully.
Yeah, no, really, really good points there. And I think it's ingrained in us to almost kind of undersell ourselves as an industry. And I think, like you, I go and see body shops. I have no idea how to run a body shop, but when I walk in some of these places, it's wow factor. It's amazing, and It's just getting that message out externally. Helen, same question to you then. Are we going in the right direction in terms of, what you're doing at the Vella Group as well? Is all this kind of knitting together nicely for you?
Yeah, we're definitely heading in the right direction. We started making the steps that we need to fill those gaps, but I totally agree with Dean. We're a long way away. The gap is here and now, and we need to do something a bit quicker. But yes, definitely heading in the right direction. But the collaboration between training providers, other body shops, other people in the industry is what is needed, because one person or one business isn't going to do it on their own. We've got to be in it all together.
And Edwyn, are we a million miles away from other sectors? Are we sort of slowly adopting, kind of what you guys, advise?
I don't think you're a million miles away at all. I think the fact that these webinars are taking place, looking at some of the comments and knowing how innovative the UK body shops have been, and despite the challenges of COVID, continuing all the rest of it, I don't think you're as far away as you think. I think the one thing we say to a lot of, this analogy, we're all in the same storm but not in the same boat, is used a lot. And I know different businesses are, struggling more or less, but I don't think there's any one sector out there that we deal with that don't have huge challenges at the moment. And I think you're right. Don't be too harsh on yourselves. Every business is actually going through some of these challenges at the moment. And one of the things we try and provide organizations with is a bit of an index to show you how you're doing compared to others. And, we work with a number of body shops and actually not doing too bad at all. So I think there's always more to be done. But the fact that we're talking about these issues and they're recognized, is a massive step forward. There's still industries with their head in their sand, hoping that with some miraculous people will just want to come back to the office and remember how great it was because we can all go for beers at lunchtime. And I think those days are gone, where I don't think that's the case here. So, I think there's a positive future, and knowing with Thatcham and the guys, the work they've done and innovating, I've got no doubt it will prosper.
It's good to hear. Very good to hear. And I have to say, like, some of the comments coming through and the questions, we'll try and get round to some of them, but it's fantastic commentary coming in from everybody. So really great. Thank you so much. I'm just going to post the next poll because we are kind of nearing the end of today's session, but characteristics. So here we go. Let's have a little chat around this one. So what do you think will be the key characteristics of tomorrow's technician will be? Adaptability, digital skills, customer service, specialist skills, or communication levels? Whilst that's running, Helen, the sector demands a variety of skill sets, changing ones. We know that only too well. How can or does the industry support careers for life? So is there a kind of, a plan, a map that we can do individually as businesses or as an industry?
Yeah, I think for us, as we've spoken about, it's your apprenticeships, it's creating the right culture within your businesses, your organisation. It's really reinvesting in your staff, upskilling. We know technology and vehicles are changing constantly. It's making sure everybody's kept up to speed and ensuring that the environment that people want to stay, that they feel comfortable, they've got the career progression, the succession planning within the business, so they know that I'm the next production manager, I'm the next general manager. They can see their path. And I think that's extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, again, arguably something that we perhaps not had historically within the sector. And Dean, your thoughts, does it go broader than that? Does it go cross-industry? Are there things that we can do as a sector as a whole?
Yeah, there are. I've kind of answered this similar kind of question in the past, and I'd associate the body shop industry, and especially when you get into kind of groups, it's almost like building out your own national health service model. You create a bunch of general practitioners who can take care of the remedial kind of work, identify when things get a little bit tough, and have access to consultant services, those specialist areas to go, actually, you know what, that one needs to go there, that one needs to go there. And if you had a model that built out like that, rather than everybody being a level 3 qualified technician across the workforce, and you're almost limiting your capabilities to move from A to B, you wind up building a massive potential career path journey, careers for life, because people can decide, do I want to specialize, or do I want to generalize? Do I want to lead people, or do I want to lead processes? We can build out massive career paths for across the sector, but trying to get one individual with exactly the same level of qualification and skill set as every other individual, and be able to deal with every potential change that occurs within the repair cycle today. I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's really hard, because gone are the days where every single car came into a body shop and pretty much the damage was different, but the car was pretty much the same. Every car is different today, and it's very easy for us to say it because we see it through our research, we see it through our Euro NCAP crash testing, our vehicle-led research, we see it here in the academy. But if body shops started to take a look at the sort of work that's coming in, and how some of it is very easy to deal with and some of it is very complex, and built a workforce to be able to deal with that, I think it would create not only that ease of attraction, because not everybody has to be level 3 capable to be attracted in, but you can start to attract people in with career paths that take them to different skill levels technically, or different skill levels through the soft skill and management capabilities. Mm-hmm. And it gives people more choice. At the moment, I still very much feel like as an industry, and we do it when we're recruiting here at Thatcham Automotive Academy, we recruit a training instructor. We don't recruit an individual and talk about a career path through training and education institute. And that's what we do in the body shop. We recruit panel technicians. And going back to one of the earlier comments, when was the last time you sat down and had a conversation with your children around the dining room table and they said, Daddy, I want to be a panel technician?
Well, I'm sure there must be a few somewhere, but no, I mean, great comments, and a lot of it absolutely resonating with people on the commentary there, which is great. Share the results. So characteristics, hopefully you can see those on screen. So what do we think tomorrow's technician? Adaptability, digital skills, customer service, specialist skills, communication. So covers the whole gambit there. Interesting, adaptability being that kind of top score there. So Edwyn, I'll jump across to you for the final say for today. So the criteria for businesses attracting and developing the best talent in the future. What's that kind of ideal business that everyone has the wow factor and it draws lots of people in?
Yeah, I think there's not a single formula, that applies across all different sectors. But I think, purpose is still important, having a clear vision of where you're going, but a little bit more focus on human and less on output. There's those businesses who recognize there's been so much focus over the years on robotics and automation and technology, and there's been, comparatively speaking, so little focus on human performance. And I believe those businesses now who shift attention to how can we develop good human beings, good people, that are performing at their optimum, and create environments where those people can flourish. Like a flower, you need good soil, you need water, you need sunshine for it to flourish. How can we create those environments whilst teaching them those skills, I think are those that are going to be the future leaders, the future leaders more so than those organizations who just keep focusing on processes and systems and so on.
Fascinating stuff. Wonderful once again. So we'll just jump across. 29th of June, we obviously are back to physical events now. So we have our Motor Claims Showcase event. It's a combination of ILC Motor and ARC360. Tickets available online. Would be fantastic to see you there. We'll carry on all of these conversations as part of that. We're back on the 25th of May, where we're talking products, equipment and services. A huge thank you, as always, to our corporate partners, Solera, Auditex, BASF, BMS, CAPS, Copart, Emacs, Integral, Enterprise, Innovation Group, Merck, and Nationwide Vehicle Recovery Assistance, S&G Response, Sherwin-Williams, and our partners, Aztec, the Green Part Specialist, Indasa, and Prasco UK. And, of course, a huge thank you to our panelists for today. Dean, thank you so much for joining us. Helen, likewise, great to catch up with you. And Edwyn, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate everyone for joining us. We've got some comments and questions I'll scoop up and distribute accordingly. If we can get some feedback post this event, that's fantastic. But really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much for joining us. Drop any comments in the chat, and we'll catch up with you all very shortly. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Bye.